You're watching Caitlin and Kiwi. Hello. It is Caitlin and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about bearded dragon care. So in the animal owning community, we have all come to a general agreement that Petsmart is not the best place to get your information from, that you should be taking everything with a grain of salt that you hear from anyone giving you advice about your animal. That is why it is so important to research before getting an animal, so you are so well versed in their care that when somebody tells you, oh, you should be doing this, you will know if you should be doing that. You will know if you shouldn't be doing that. You should be so well versed in an animal's care that you could teach someone else how to care for that animal. Today I have the Petsmart Bearded Dragon Care Guide pulled up on my phone, and we are going to review it and see what information is correct and what information is not. Alright, so the first paragraph is titled, How Do I Set Up My Bearded Dragon's Home? And it reads, once he's fully grown, you'll want a glass terrarium of at least 40 gallons in volume with a screened lid for him to live in. Your bearded dragon is from a warm, dry environment, so you'll need a heating source for his home. Your dragons prefer the solitary life. Alright, so let's talk about that. Your bearded dragon, once it's fully grown, needs a 4x2x2 terrarium, or that is about 120 gallons. So that minimum is way off. 40 gallons is way too small for an adult bearded dragon. The screened lid is spot on though, because you need to be able to get light and UVB down into your dragon's enclosure properly. The paragraph also talks about heating. It mentions that you need a heat source, but it doesn't say what kind. You will need some sort of basking bulb. Stay away from any sort of colored lights. You just want a plain basking bulb, no red or blue colors, anything wacky like that. That will hurt your dragon's eyes. You also need UVB, which this doesn't talk about. You need a linear tube UVB that goes across. You do not want to buy coil UVB, which is like a heat lamp. It's spinny. It's like a big swirl. You don't want that. That doesn't give off enough UVB for your reptile. It's just not good. At the end of the paragraph, it says, your dragon prefers the solitary life. And I feel like it should say your dragon requires the solitary life, because bearded dragons are solitary animals. They should never be housed together. They will fight and they will eventually hurt one another. They could even kill one another. Just don't house your bearded dragons together. Don't do it. Alright, so next there are 2 paragraphs, and the title says, what can I put in my bearded dragon's terrarium? And it reads, to remind him of the desert and of his ancestors, line the bottom of your bearded dragon's tank with 2 to 3 inches of calcium sand. Or invest in reptile carpet. Carpet is a better choice for younger dragons. Scoop up waste at least once a week and treat him to fresh bedding once a month. Reptiles can be finicky about comfortable room temperature. Be sure to give your bearded dragon a piece of driftwood or a rock to climb a little closer to his heat source or to hide behind. Add a few branches for hiding and climbing, and then there are links to calcium sand reptile carpet decor and other things. Let me start off by saying never use calcium sand ever for any animal. Just don't do it. Calcium sand promotes reptiles eating it, which is awful. when it's wet, it will stick together. So after your dragon has eaten it, it will stick together inside of its stomach and it will cause impaction, which could ultimately kill your animal. So please don't use calcium sand. And while reptile carpet is not the worst, it's not the best. It is a breeding ground for bacteria, not to mention all of the awful horror stories that I have read about where dragons get their nails or their teeth caught into the carpet and they end up ripping out a nail or ripping out a tooth, and you just don't want to risk that. If you want to use a loose substrate, please look into getting some children's play sand and some organic topsoil. Mix those together and lay 2 to 3 inches on your dragon's floor. You can also use things like tile and non-adhesive shelf liner, but I do recommend having a dig box with those because digging is excellent natural enrichment for bearded dragons. Okay, this next one really gets me. It said that you only have to scoop up waste once a week. Now, some dragons poop every day. Some dragons poop every couple of days. It's really just how your dragon is. But Kiwi, she poops almost every day. And if I waited a week to pick up her poop, it would get dry and crusty, and you don't know what kind of bacterias are living inside their poop. You don't know what they're running through, and you don't know if they're going to smear their poop all over their cage or their tank decorations. Don't wait that long to clean up waste. Clean up waste immediately after you find that your dragon has pooped. Now it's talking about some tank decor, and reptiles and bearded dragons specifically do need a lot of tank decor because that tank is their home. They need things to do, just like you would give a dog chew toys. You need to give your reptile things to do too. Places to climb, hide, bask, and burrow are essential for every single dragon. You don't just need a piece of driftwood and a rock. You can't just call that good. That's not good enough. Your dragon could get depressed, they could become lethargic, and that is no good. We want happy dragons who like to run around their enclosures. We want to provide our animals with the best life possible, so please fill up their tank with some fun decor. Please also make sure that you're leaving a little bit of floor space so that they can run around as well. Alright, so the next paragraph is titled Heating and Lighting, and it reads, Bearded dragons are ectotherms. This means that they'll need both a reliable source of heat and a cooler area to stay comfy. Here's some more tips on heating and lighting to keep in mind. Heating. Your dragon's habitat should have a thermometer at each end as well as a hydrometer, a device that measures humidity. Your bearded dragon thrives when humidity is between 20 and 30%. If humidity is less than 20%, a light misting once a day is sufficient. Place your heat light over the basking spot, which should be the warmest area in the habitat during the day, 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The cool end should be about 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Turn the basking light off at night. Use a ceramic heat emitter or a night heat lamp to keep the temperature between 66 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Lighting. Bearded dragons are active during the day and sleep at night just like you. Unlike you, they like basking under a UVA or UVB bulb for about 12 hours each day. For night viewing, switch to a night-specific bulb to keep from disturbing your bearded dragon. So the section about heating was actually pretty accurate. You do need a thermometer and a hydrometer. I do recommend having an electronic one instead of a manual because the electronic ones are much more accurate. They are correct about your dragon needing a warm side and a cool side, and how the basking area should be the hottest part of the enclosure. They said to switch to a ceramic heat emitter at night, but that really isn't necessary unless your home's temperature drops below 70 degrees in the evening. Then you should use a ceramic heat emitter, which is a bulb that does not emit any light. Please, please, please stay away from any colored lights. No red lights, no blue lights. Those will hurt your dragon's eyes, and they are not good for them. So in the lighting portion, they're talking about how dragons are active during the day and sleep at night, which is correct. And then they go on to say that bearded dragons like basking for about 12 hours each day. And bearded dragons do like to bask for a long time during the day, but if your dragon is just sitting there for the entire day, not moving, and your dragon is normally pretty active, that's not normal. That's something that you should be concerned about. If your dragon is lethargic in any way, please call a vet if you're concerned. It's just important that you understand that while bearded dragons do tend to be a little bit lazy, and while they do like to bask, they should be active during the daytime. Next part of the care guide is titled, What Do Bearded Dragons Eat? And it reads, bearded dragons are omnivores. They eat both plants and meat. Feed your dragon 2 to 3 times a day. A young hatchling will mostly eat small insects, but once your bearded dragon is a bit more mature, he'll enjoy vegetables too. Make sure to clean his water bowl and food bowl regularly. Insects include crickets, mealworms, and waxworms. Dust with a calcium supplement twice weekly. Vegetables include chopped leafy greens or carrots fed every other day. Fruits include apples, bananas, and melons. Prepared diets include pellets once daily. And it says to have a water bowl that you change every day that is in the tank at all times. There is so much wrong with that. So it is true that bearded dragons are omnivores. They do eat both bugs and salads every day. But that is where this stops being correct. So just to rattle off some staple feeder insects, they include dubia roaches, crickets, silkworms, black soldier fly larvae. That's all that I can think of off the top of my head. Waxworms are not a staple. They are a treat, and they should only be used sparingly because they are so fatty and they're so addictive to your dragon. Mealworms should not be fed to your dragon until they're about 6 months old, is the general rule. They may be used as treats. It's kind of a debate in the reptile community whether these should be fed at all, but if you do have proper husbandry and your dragon is old enough and completely healthy, they can be used as treats, but not as a staple because of their hard exoskeleton that could be a little bit harder on their tummies to digest. So it says that vegetables should be dark leafy greens or carrots fed every other day. So, no, that's not correct. Your dragon should be getting dark leafy greens every single day with a plethora of vegetables, and fruit should only be fed once or twice a month. Some good staple greens include dandelion greens, arugula, mustard greens, turnip greens, endive or escarole. Those are just a few to name off. Some veggies include squash of almost any type. But what kind of wigs me out is that it says that carrots can be fed a lot more often than they should be fed. Carrots should really only be fed once every other week. So this says that fruits can be fed once a week, which is completely incorrect. They should be once or twice a week, as I just said. This also says that apples, bananas, and melons are the best foods to feed your bearded dragons. Those aren't the best fruits that you can feed your dragons. Bananas should be fed rarely, if they're fed at all, because they don't meet the calcium-phosphorus ratio requirements. Melons are normally super full of water content and could give your dragon really runny poop if you feed it too often. Apples are okay as long as they don't have the skins on them. Okay, it's talking about pellets here, and I have some very strong feelings about pellets. You should never feed your bearded dragon any type of pellet food. You should never feed your bearded dragon any type of dry food, any type of food that comes from a can. Just don't do it. When the food is not fresh or live, it loses nutrients. It becomes less healthy. So why would you give your bearded dragon dry crickets when you could give your bearded dragons live ones that have all of the nutrients packed into them? It should never be done. Don't feed your bearded dragon pellets. Now, water. Water is a hot topic. You do not have to have a water dish in your bearded dragon's enclosure. Kiwi doesn't have a water dish inside of her enclosure because it makes it too humid. And that's perfectly okay because she gets enough water content from her bugs and her veggies like your dragon does too. Dragons don't need water inside their enclosure at all times. You can offer it from time to time, but most of the time bearded dragons won't even drink water out of their bowl because bearded dragons have a hard time seeing water that's not moving. The next section is called How Can I Keep My Bearded Dragon Healthy? And it reads, try not to handle your new reptile for 3 to 4 days. They need a chance to get used to their new home. Even a settled-in lizard can feel sick. If you notice any of these symptoms, it might be time to go visit the vet. More hiding time than usual, less eating and drinking, maybe even weight loss, swollen joints, skin is discolored and shedding, discharge from the eyes, nose, or mouth, and droppings that look runny for more than 2 days in a row. And then it goes on to talk about how Petsmart's animals are all vet assured. So I recommend leaving your bearded dragon alone for about a week, maybe even 2 weeks, depending on how your reptile is doing after the first week. It's a very stressful time for them to be moved from the pet store into your home, into a brand new tank and a brand new environment, and you just gotta let them feel things out. During this time, they might not be eating and drinking normally, but they will fall into a schedule. You just have to be patient. Also, all of those symptoms that they did list that a sick dragon may have are pretty accurate. Calling a vet if you think something is wrong is never going to hurt. It's never going to hurt. And even if you sound stupid, you are just looking out for your animal and you are doing the best that you can. So yeah, please immediately call a vet if you start to suspect that your bearded dragon is sick, because bearded dragons are so good at hiding illnesses until it's the last minute. So maybe you can catch something early, maybe you can get some treatment in before something starts to get bad, just stuff like that. Alright guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and share. Subscribe if you haven't already. And hit the notification bell to get notifications when I post more lizard content. I normally post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you guys so much for your support, and Kiwi and I love you. Bye.